Welcome to the EarthWorks podcast, where our team will share the jargon of carbon with many of our turf friends that we've met over the past 35 plus years.
Hey everybody, this is Kevin Hicks with another EarthWorks podcast. I think this is the first time I've had two guys on at one time, so this will be kind of interesting. But this came up from a conversation I had with Zach after one of our local roundtable meetings this spring, actually this winter at your place, right, Dan?
Yeah.
And Zach made the comment that you're kind of both from the same era, but you approach technology really, really differently. So I thought it'd be good to kind of do point counterpoint. And thanks for coming on, Zach. You're at the Idaho Club. Excuse me, you're not at the Idaho Club. You're at
not there.
You're in Idaho. Your club has changed names so many times I get screwed up. I was thinking Rock Creek, Idaho, but you're at CDA National. I have a feeling that name's going to stick. And Dan, you're across the street. We're going to get into this a little bit at the club at Black Rock. So I'm going to put you on the spot first, Dan, and kind of share a little bit of the background, because there's a ton of interconnectivity between your two clubs. I mean, like a lot, because they were the same club at one time. So talk a little bit about that before we get rolling on technology.
Yeah. So initially in early 2000, Black Rock was built and started as a private development. And in about 2005, they wanted to expand and they started building Rock Creek. Well, it was Black Rock North. And
right.
When the market crashed, they were overextended and building developments throughout the community, and they lost everything. And so at that point in 2007, 2008, 10 members stepped up and bought Black Rock, and Black Rock North went away to the bank.
Right.
And so they still would just mow and just keep it alive in general. But at that point, they had just built Zach's facility that he's in right now. And so I think it was like one season they operated both courses out
together.
Of that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the maintenance facility that Zach's in was supposed to be shared between your two clubs.
Yeah, it was supposed to be a 36-hole deal out of the one facility.
And that interim, when it went to the bank, happened to go to I can't remember what bank he operates, but it happened to go to Bill Foley's group, who owns Rock Creek Cattle Company. And so that's when it was Rock Creek, Idaho for a little while.
Yeah.
And I think prior to that, am I correct that they were at the stage in construction that there was bunker sand stockpiled in the bunkers, but it was never even spread out.
Correct.
And the grow-in superintendent, I think, and Gary, the interim superintendent before you, Zach, was they were pretty much the only two guys, and they were maintaining greens, and that was pretty much it, right? For a couple of years.
Yeah. I still have some guys that worked over there and just would help keep it alive.
Yeah.
It was just to make sure sprinklers ran and, they don't lose the grass. Too bad.
So now you're completely separate, but you can see each other's golf courses from each of the facilities. Some of the stuff I know about, I'm sure there's more to it, but so the maintenance facility is no longer shared, which means Zach's got a humongous facility that he's got room to grow into forever. Talk about irrigation, sharing some of the water. You're kind of the water master, Dan, for both clubs, right?
Kind of. It's owned by the HOA, the Black Rock HOA.
Okay.
And they have the rights to pull water out of the lake, and they pump it up the hill into a pond. And then there's pumps at our pond that feed all of the HOA and the developments for irrigation. But then also they have a valve they open that fills their irrigation pond.
Yeah. Yeah. So I should back up a little bit and clarify that you guys are in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, which I didn't clarify at the outset. So you're neighbors of mine and certainly part of this community. So the pumps then go the water has to go to your pond first. There's not a direct pipe going up to Zach's golf course, right?
Correct.
Okay.
And they actually built a second pond because now there's too many houses and they're drawing too much water. So they had to build an additional 10 million gallon holding pond to supplement our irrigation pond that's on our golf course so that it doesn't drop 10 feet in August.
And that pond is on your property?
Yes,
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Um, so now you're each owned by different single owners, right?
correct.
So talk a little bit about that, how that's I mean, Dan, you've been around that club for quite a while, right? You came in as the assistant
Yeah.
and then were promoted. So
Yeah,
so
I think it was my second year when one of the 10 owner members had just bought out everybody to
yeah.
be a single sole owner.
Oh, so he was an original of the 10. I didn't know that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And so now, I mean, he's pretty hands off and it's just me and pro and GM. And we don't have any committees or any other overseeing body.
Neither one of you do you? Zach, you don't have a committee either, do you?
No, I have a single owner and GM. That's all I report to.
Do you guys have any concept of how lucky you are that you don't have committees?
Absolutely.
Okay,
I do.
you've had them before, Zach. So
I do.
You can-
I know exactly how lucky I am.
you can certainly appreciate that. The other thing that's really different, though, is is turf types. So Dan, originally your architect was
Jimmy.
yeah, Jim Ing, and your bent grass tees, fairways, and greens, right?
Yep.
So, and Zach, when yours was built, it was a little bit different approach, and I'm not sure why. Do either one of you know why bluegrass was chosen for the fairways?
It
think-
was cost
think-
of maintenance.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, cost of maintenance and something a little bit different between the two courses. I'm a Tom Weiskopf design golf course, but
Right.
yeah, as far as Dan, he has bent grass tee to green. I have bent grass tees and greens and bluegrass everywhere else.
Yeah, we won't get into that because I know how you feel about that, but maybe someday you'll get your switch out. So yeah, it's interesting to see that, as interconnected as they were, how different the turf types are. And Dan, you've had a little bit of work to kind of get control. We'll probably talk about that with some of the technology, but to get control of some of the organic buildup and stuff in the fairways, right?
Absolutely. It's
Feel a
been
lot better now?
grind. Yeah, it's just going out today or this week, going into the season. I think it's the first time I've been able to verticut past the leaf blades.
Oh, okay. Nice. Good deal. A lot of top dressing.
Yes.
Yes. All right. So we'll get into what I wanted to get you two on and that's to kind of do a little bit of a debate on technology, because I would consider you both kind of the next generation of superintendent. I know you got to both be right around the same age, and it's cool to see that two guys in your generation of grass growers that kind of approach things a little bit differently. Although Zach, I'm going to call you out at the end of this because you've got some training today that kind of throws you right into the middle of technology. But we're going to start with you, Zach, and first I want to ask what the biggest adjustment has been for you, because this is your third season, right? In Idaho.
Start of my third season. Yes.
So what's been the biggest adjustment from the Front Range of Colorado to here?
Biggest the weather.
Longer winters.
Well, longer winters, but wetter. Just flat out wetter. So, I think that's been eye-opening as far as come September through May, it's wet.
Right.
And in Colorado, it's pretty dry. It's 300 days of sun a year in Colorado on the Front Range, and ETs are high.
Yeah.
Even in winter time, you're doing, you could be a tenth, on a 30-degree day. You're hand watering. You're out there watering in the wintertime. Know about that on the Front Range desiccation.
Yeah.
So coming here, I haven't had to hand water anything in the winter. It stays nice and wet.
It's more dewatering, right?
Yeah.
In a lot of cases.
you reach field capacity by October, and you stay at that for the next 5 months
Yep.
with water. So that's been different. I think that's been less, 160 days of sun a year up here, mainly in the summertime.
Yeah.
ETs are way different. Like it's amazing. I'm amazed at how low the ETs are in the summer here.
Yeah.
In Colorado on the Front Range, we had an ET day of 0.22, 0.21. It was, hey, easy day today, boys. But
Right.
here you get to that here, and it's like, oh, it's a hot one.
Yeah. There's a lot less
So-
air movement here than in Colorado, I think, just in general, and that probably affects it as much as anything.
Yeah.
You didn't even, if I remember correctly, you didn't even blow your system out completely, right? In Colorado?
No, we just drained. So
Yeah.
we just drained, and that was becoming a lot of the norm in Colorado, people
Yep.
just draining out.
Because you do need to fire up a couple times during the wintertime.
Yeah, and I was fortunate. I had hydrants.
Sure.
So my main line was live. We would drain everything out, close off all the laterals in the wintertime, and then repressurize the main line. My main line would be live year round. And then, we'd have hydrants throughout the whole golf course on greens, fairways, and everything to get water out there. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, a lot of people are, a lot of those, it's just it's getting to that, just dry and warm in the wintertime down there. So that's why you just pray for snow. Any
Right.
type of moisture down there. You just hope for it in the wintertime. So
Is the fishing better here than Colorado?
it's different. So
How so?
it's just different. Everywhere I fished in Colorado, it was, you're fishing for brown trout, rainbow trout. It's just a different type of fishing. I fished a lot on the South Platte, which is pretty wide open, high plains, no trees around, anything. Here, you're in canyons, so it's
Right.
a very canyon-esque type, more rugged. The water's colder here. I feel like even though we're lower elevation, I feel like the water is cold here a lot longer. I can't explain it. Because I would fish at, 8,000, 9,000 feet there, and it gets warm. It again, probably just that closer to the sun.
Yeah.
Just being higher up, solar radiation and everything. But yeah, I like it better here based on the fact that it's all native fish. There's like the two rivers I fish, the Joe and the Coeur d'Alene. It's all cutthroat. It hasn't been screwed up by brown trout yet.
Sure. Well, it's probably because the water's colder, right? They tend to be a
Yeah.
little bit warmer water fish.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
They do. Absolutely. So, yep.
All right, let's not talk about fishing. I still need to hitch a ride with you one of these evenings and go fishing with you. All right, Dan, I don't know. Have you? I know your history around this area. Have you been anywhere else on golf courses, or kind of got
No.
your start here and haven't found an excuse to leave yet?
Yep. No, started in Post Falls and went to Spokane for a brief stint. And
Okay.
then back to Idaho, and now I'm here. I'm still in Idaho,
And here you are.
North Idaho in particular.
So, all right. So I was not at the roundtable meeting, which is always a really, really good conversation and usually gets guys talking. And, Dan, you've been moderating for the last couple of years, which 5 years ago, you probably would have admitted there's no way you would have put yourself out of your comfort zone like that. But, as the elder statesman in the group, I'm proud of you for doing that and
Well, thank
stepping
you.
up. So you guys talked about technology, and there's, I should probably back up a little bit. With the exception of just a couple of superintendents, most of the higher profile jobs around this area, and in general, the jobs have turned over to kind of, and I don't mean to call you guys whippersnappers or anything, but definitely the next generation of superintendent. And I think by and large, technology is maybe a little bit more accepted. And you could both admit that you were talking about your interns before we hit the record button, Zach. The kids, your interns, and it's second nature. They're out there right now learning how to use a an autonomous mower that you purchased this year. We'll get into that a little bit later, but so Dan, explain, kind of what some of the things are that you're using, and maybe a little bit as to why you find that that link to technology so important to what you're doing.
I don't know. I think it's more like it's just always been my thing. Like growing up, I would tear apart computers and try and figure out how they work and never be able to put them back together. And like,
Did you figure
it's
out how
like,
they worked in the process, or you just ruined a computer?
I don't know. You just learn the parts, I guess. But yeah, that was back when you actually put the chip in.
Right.
Yeah, we got to 512. Woo! You know, kilobytes. But I think like just always being interested in what's new and what's coming and I don't know, thinking about it different. Uh I don't know, I just like to be not do what everyone else is doing. I
Sure.
think is more of the interest in it.
Okay, so give me your top three or four things that you think are pretty critical to the way you manage turf, technology wise. I mean, we talked the other day about the GS3 ball. I think are you using that, or you have used
Yeah,
it?
we got it last year, so that was our first season using it. And I
Okay.
think everyone will tell you like you don't really know what you have until you use it for a year. And like, I don't know if that number is good or bad, or you see what other people are doing, but like, you
So
don't know until you use it.
yeah, so explain that.
So you get a number for trueness or whatever.
Okay.
And like, okay, is that a good number? Like it seems good to what we were doing. So we'll set that as a guideline for where we want it to be near. And
So you
then
you have to build a bit of a database to really kind of see what
yeah.
and are you using it more to establish a consistency from day to day, or to monitor, or is it like a check and balance for the cultural practices that you're doing?
Yeah, it for me last year, I like to do it like before we did something and then do it the
Okay.
several days after that thing to
Yep.
see how big that window is before
Okay.
it came back to what it was prior.
Yeah.
And like how do we change those practices that we did to make that window smaller? Because we only have 6 months of open and
Right.
we're
Right.
full now and we're busy every day and just trying to have as many good days as you can. And and I think to know that okay, if we do it that way, we need 6 days to get back. Or if we change something, we can make it 4 days. Like let's try and make it 4 days. So let's try and do it a little bit different.
So give me an example, like top dressing or
Yeah, so top dressing and then brushing it in
okay.
or rolling it in or just watering it in or verticutting and top dressing and when do you mow and how quick after can you mow and what rate of top dressing do we need, like where's the threshold on top dressing that we can the soonest we can mow next.
Okay.
And so that's where I've used the ball up to now. Like I'm not like I don't know. The pro likes to know just so he has ammunition in when he gets asked a question.
Sure.
Like he doesn't share that information with anybody. He just wants to be like, we're we're 2 days away from it being tournament again,
Okay.
or we're 4 days away or whatever. He can just communicate that when he gets asked a question.
Yeah. And do you both, Zach, are you using the GS3 ball?
I have not gotten one yet. No.
Okay. And are you both I kind of called you out the other day, Dan, that I accused you of posting green speeds and stuff, and you quickly said no, that's not the case. But please don't do that
No,
to
no,
yourself. Not a good thing.
no.
So I guess my question is, do you both have some kind of a standard set by membership or by ownership that you're striving towards on a daily basis? I mean, is it, and you don't have to give a number, but I assume there's
Yeah, I'm
something.
over the last couple of years, we've found a sweet spot that
Okay.
they're like, yeah, let's try and just be there all the time.
When
Doesn't
things are
matter
the
if it's enough
quietest, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
It's no one's complaining too fast, no one's complaining too slow. They're rolling good enough.
Offline, I'll have to ask you what that number is. Same thing for you, Zach?
Yeah, so I have we have SOPs. So and I'll just tell you, my standard operating procedure for the full year is 10 and a half,
Okay,
which if I start the season at that, I don't, I don't maintain it in season at that. I'm higher,
sure.
but yeah, that's as long as I keep it at 10 to 10 and a half, um, going into the season. Um, yeah, I'm good. So
So cultivars on greens, there's a difference, right? Dan, you're
L93.
L93. That's what I was thinking. And
And
Zach?
today we just interceded with 007.
Okay. Okay.
I'm I'm T1.
Got it. First time with T1?
First time with T1.
Okay.
That's what my fairways are.
That's right. I thought it was PLS. No?
It was initially T1.
Okay. Okay. Um, so what other technology I gotta pick on Dan again, I guess, because Zach's a lot of like me, you're not. I know that, but so what other stuff do you do? I think you're doing clip volume and things like that.
Yeah, so clipping volume has been really cool to correlate with the GS3 ball. So like when you start seeing a trend in increased volume, you almost see the exact same data on the ball.
Trueness
And
trueness
yeah,
declines.
everything. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
And correlate and in addition to Green's clipping collection, it's growing degree day tracking and like being able to time your next app so that you just have a straight line basically
Yeah.
is the goal or the game.
Right.
I
Right.
call it
Right.
a game.
So, and we talked a little bit about this the other day too, how are okay, let's just take those three things. You've got USGA involved, you've got some sort of a volume bucket involved, and data from growing degree days. How do you pull that together? Are you just creating a spreadsheet with it all kind of collated on the
I've
same form?
I've used Greenkeeper since he created it in
Okay.
2007. And so I've I'm super familiar with it. Every advancement that it's made and changed in, like I've been there for it and witnessed it and given feedback and been just a tried and true follower of it.
Sure.
And I just like the way it presents the information
So clipping volume can definitely be included there, but then
and
I,
growing degree days.
and growing degree, I assume he's got a place where you can plug in the data from the GS3 ball.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You can put it all into the same thing and you get it all overlaid on the same chart and it's just nice to
Yeah.
know.
So Dan, or sorry, Zach, are you doing any of those things? Obviously, the GS3, no. So clearly, you're maintaining the same consistency and quality, both of you. You're just doing it in maybe a little more hands-on, maybe old school fashion. So, um, what kind of tools do you use if you're not using technology? What kind of tools do you use? Is it just the eyes?
yeah, so I am a little bit more old school than Dan.
Yeah.
I would admit that. Uh,
That's why I want you
yeah,
two on here. I think there's
yeah.
nothing wrong with either approach, right?
Right. So I do look at I do look at what's going on in the buckets every day
Yep.
and on my grass. So I've always been one of those like looking at the buckets. Um, I'll look at I send out 4 greens mowers a day. I'll look at each one of them, Um, and then from there, I go, I putt on each, almost every green every day, throwing balls on each green. I'm looking at them, watching them. Um, yeah, I grew up, I think I am a little older than Dan. But I grew up with, I never got into computers. I never got into like I never had I never got into gaming. I don't do gaming. I grew up literally outside in the North Georgia woods. Like
Right.
that's where I was comfortable. If I wasn't in school, I get home from school, I was literally just outside in the woods, doing stuff outside in the woods. And so, um, and then when I came up, through the industry as a younger turf professional, um, I learned it, I learned from some older guys. It's yes, there's obviously science behind the whole operation of what we do, but there's also an art form to it.
Hmm.
And uh, so I've kind of got like I've done it a lot of old school ways. Obviously, I've gotten into technology with moisture meters and um, doing going through that and 10 plus years ago going to moisture meters and getting into we were one of the first probably 10 or 15 to do ASB task tracker with Jerry and Jamie out of Idaho and integrating technology here and there and I am not against any technology
Sure.
because I just may not be the quickest adopter on
Right.
technology. And so, I like to see what other people are doing. And I think it's great, like what Dan's doing.
Yeah, I'm not asking you to apologize for your approach. This is why I wanted you two kind of side by side. So
Right. So
there's two ways to skin the cat for sure, at
yeah. So
least.
I mean, I think, it's awesome to look at, take the technology, take the data and apply that, to the golf course to make
Yeah,
it better. Um, so I think it's wonderful. It's just I do it in a different fashion,
yeah,
where I'm looking at what's going. I just have maybe I just have the eye for it because I feel like on my PGRs, I'm not going out there and doing growing degree days, but I'm looking at what I'm getting on clippings. I'm
sure.
watching my mowers. I'm watching what they're doing. I really never come out of regulation, right? So I'm like, there's sometimes I'll have like a random something just doesn't, it doesn't work right. Um, and I'll have some random like flush where I come out and it's like what and then I think I look back at because I take weather data, I look at what's going on with the weather and
Yep.
whatnot and look at that. But um yeah, I'm very hands-on. Like I get out there and just and two, one thing that I don't like, and I'll be the first one to admit I'm really bad at it. I don't like sitting in my office. Um, and so I like being out on course. So
Yeah.
like when I have if I'm looking at a boatload of data, like I just want to be out on course and looking I want to watch people. I want to see shots into the green. I want to watch, and I'm not saying Dan doesn't do any of this either. Um, I want to be out on course and I don't necessarily want to be just, tied down
Yeah.
to, looking at graphs and looking
Right.
at stuff like
That makes
that.
sense. So
So,
and that brings up a good question. Dan, do you delegate some of the not only the data collection but the data logging, or are you
Yeah,
kind of
I don't do any of the logging or
okay?
anything. Um, I let- we have I make other people do that.
I have people to do that. Okay, perfect. I
But,
love it.
yeah, tell me when
So,
it's done so I can go look at it.
all
But
right. So let me ask you this. Zach, you mentioned you've got a putter with you. Do you have a putter with you, Dan,
absolutely,
to kind of truth some of the data
absolutely,
that you're
and
talking about?
I didn't just jump both feet in and
No, I get it.
go for it. Like
Again,
I totally started like Zach and like like you do it and you're like it says to do it, but I don't know if that's right yet.
right.
And well, let's just do it and see what happens. And then you like as you do it and do it and do it, you get more and more trusting, I guess, of the research and the numbers that
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
have built in and so as you do it more and more, you get more and more comfortable with it and see how far you can push that line. And that I mean, at this point, I pretty much trust it, but it's still did it spray right? You got to go look and
Right.
did it go down right? Did something, you still have to go
Did the weather change when it
do all the
wasn't?
things that you did
Yeah,
before.
of course. Of
It
course.
just helps you with your decision making.
Yeah. Um, so you guys fed perfectly into my next bullet point. One of the things that, and Zach, you mentioned moisture meters, and I don't think there's anybody really that doesn't utilize those at this point. I think there's tons of value in those. And the one thing that I recognized right away as a superintendent was that was a great way for me to be able to teach the feel that I had to an assistant or an intern or something, because I could relate a feel to a number now. So when it comes to the next gen or your assistants or your interns, I'll start with you, Dan. How, I mean, they're obviously going to walk away with a lot of tools, and exposure to technology. Do you think it's easier to teach? We'll go back to the days where you were doing it by feel. Do you think it's easier to teach with the data behind you, or, and Zach, think about this question for yourself too, because I'm going to ask you the same one. But is it easier to teach your staff based on data or feel?
I think you can,
I should probably back up.
because when you start in season, you start
you're just doing it.
Just doing it. And then once they start realizing like the data they're collecting, you can pull a core and then you say squish it. And then you be like, that's 12%. And they go, how the hell did you know that's 12%? And like, well, I did it for 12 years and I just know.
Right.
And so,
Right.
so you being able to show those things that we used to do and how we do it now, kind of it's quicker. It closes that gap quicker.
Sure.
Like instead of having to spend 5 years doing it every single day to learn that, like you can teach them in like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah, and I think no matter how you do it, no matter how you impart the information, as soon as somebody takes it to another facility, it's going to be a totally, your numbers from across the road from each other are probably totally different on a given day.
Yeah.
So Zach, I mean, are you much more hands-on with your interns as far as, here's what we're looking for, moisture meter aside, because I think that's, pretty standardized now, but I don't know. Because I haven't done it the way Dan did it. I was much more hands-on, touchy-feely sort of with how I approach things. So, you think your interns walk away with the same information? I'm just kind of curious to see, it's easier to correlate a number to a number, but are they picking up on the feel thing as easily with your way of teaching them, Zach?
Yeah, so I think it's moisture meters were a game changer when they came out, and we have so much. We have multiple moisture meters nowadays that are on market. USGA just came with the one. Like I think it's way easier than when I learned. Because I learned back in the late '90s watching watching bentgrass greens in Georgia. Like you walked on them, you got the feel for them. You're looking for footprints. I mean, we would take probes and look at the probe, and that's how I learned to do it. And then moisture meters come around and it gives you a straight up number. So
Sure.
I think, I mean, yeah, like I think it's way easier now because I can tell my guys, hey, our number is this. And, if it's above that or in a certain parameter, like you don't have to worry about watering that,
Right.
And then like explaining that to them, I actually still have them take out soil probes
Mm-hmm.
because they won't believe me. So we'll actually go out, we'll go out and probe. We may get we may get a 10% in an area. And I'm like, all right, because I'm very adamant about how much water we're putting down on greens every day.
Right.
And they're like, okay, well, if you have to question yourself, or if you're questioning whether or not you need to put water down, put that probe in the ground and see what see what that moisture looks like in your hand. See what that core looks like in your hand. And it's definitely saved them a lot of time from even pulling a hose because well, okay, well, 10%, this don't need it. This looks great. So but yeah, so I mean I'm still using the hands-on approach with the technology uh, with the moisture meter, and it's just helping them get over that hump of, okay,
Yeah.
what is acceptable and what is not
Right.
acceptable to pull that hose out. So
And you've got 3 interns. Dan, do you have any this year?
2.
2? Okay. Local or from
I
out of
got 2
state?
more coming.
1 local and 1. No, they're both local. I
Okay.
call it local, Central Idaho.
Yeah. 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 It's interesting. And you got 2 more though, Zach, you said.
I got like, I don't know. I have 2 that aren't even here, but I have 2 others that are here. So,
And you've got on-site housing, which is a huge bonus where you are. Both you guys are a little bit out of town, which makes it definitely a tougher draw, I think. And did you get that piece of land on the corner, Dan? I didn't follow up with you on
Not
that.
yet. The sign's still there.
So, you guys are both apologetic about your approaches, and I don't think that's really what I wanted to get out of this. I think it's really cool that essentially the same property, totally different approaches. I've been on both your golf courses many times. I would consider them very, very well taken care of. It's cool to see that you can arrive at the same end goal with completely different approaches. Dan, back to you for a minute. What other technologies or measurement tools are you using that I didn't list that I need to be exposed to or think about?
I don't know if there's anything revolutionary. Then the next thing that I want to like start or continue to do is dial in top dressing rates.
Okay.
And so collecting clippings, like I know exactly what my growth rate is, and I know based on the weather what my growth potential is. And from that I can get a number that you can put to your top dressing rate that no one will know that you top dressed. And
So
it'll perfectly in line with everything that it's not too much, it's not too little.
yeah.
No one days you did it. It's the correct amount for the playing surface and playing conditions to maintain or improve. And I think that's my next.
So do you manipulate volume or frequency or both?
It's probably going to increase frequency
Okay.
and lower the volume.
From what to what? Like what are you on a schedule now, like every other week or
I mean, it's almost every week as it is,
okay.
but just continue to dial in that rate so that we have more days of uninterrupted
Yeah.
surface condition.
Perfection.
Yeah.
So, how are you measuring volume? Because that's a pretty subjective thing, unless you've got a truck scale or something and you're weighing your sand. I mean,
We have covered base, so our sand is always consistent,
okay?
and with that we can put over it. You just drive over a mat that catches it in a pan, and then you weigh it, and then you know how much.
Okay, so you're actually, I got you. I got you. So that goes out on a green when you're top dressing
The mat? No, we'll just do that in the driveway,
in the driveway. Okay.
and then you know whether you got to go up or down from there, and
Yeah.
then we will do a check halfway through and see
Okay.
how it changes from there.
Zach, are you on a similar schedule or different with top dressing?
uh, I'm not every week. It just kind of depends on, I'm probably every 2 weeks
Okay.
where I'm going out. I'm pretty light on my top dressing as well. I think what Dan's talking about too with growth rate and everything and the growth potential. I'm into that sort of stuff. I kind of do that low nitrogen on greens. I'm not pumping my greens up with a ton of nitrogen
Sure.
every year. And so so yeah, I mean I'm into that. I'm into that technology, into that data. So
Let's talk about irrigation. You guys are in an area of the country that, unlike a lot of my territory, you don't pay for water. The water quality is beyond good. It may be problematic that it's so good. But where are each of you on moisture sensors, like in ground, or we talked a little bit about turf the other day. I mean, where are you guys on that piece of technology and how it'll link with what you're doing irrigation wise? Are
Yeah,
you
I want
have you
it's
demoed it or not, Dan?
I have not demoed it, and
Okay,
it's on my want list.
I would assume so.
But uh yeah, I think it'll be amazing. Once you every 2 days when you mow something, you know
Yeah.
exactly where the moisture is and how heavy it is.
Zach, I know you're friends with Lance Lauer. We talked about he's a couple of years into his units, right, with turf I
I
think.
think so. Yeah, I'm a firm believer in what that microwave technology is.
Yeah.
So, my goal is to what, and it will happen. Like it's slowly getting there. Is when that technology with the microwave technology, and you're looking into the soil, right?
Hmm.
And I've never been NDVI guy. Like
Right.
looking at the canopy. All
Right.
right, it's dressed. Is it just because it's heat? Is it because of moisture? Like I've never been like I've never been one of the ones that like I'm gonna fly a drone and look at the NDVI because I'm just not, I don't believe in the tech.
Sure.
The microwave stuff where you're looking into the soil where the water is, your moisture content is, that's it. That for me. And so the integration with that technology into your irrigation computer and using AI
Hmm.
to basically manage your water. Because I've always, no matter what, the hardest thing to do, I think, on a golf course is water a golf course
Yep.
because every day, like we're going around and look, from the roughs to the fairways, we're turning heads up and down, and adjusting here, and checking arc angles and making sure our arcs are good. And I think it's one of the hardest things to do, like over a consistent basis over 100 acres, is to water a golf course.
Yeah.
And if you have that technology, where you can take these measurements and then integrate that into your irrigation computer, and then using AI with your irrigation computer and those measurements, that data, to basically water for you,
Hmm.
I'm all in,
Right.
because that's going to get just the conditioning is going to get that much better. The playable conditions are going to get that much better. It's going to take headaches off of yourself as a superintendent. So like that data, it will be here. And I know Turfrad and Toro are doing that, and it will happen. Rainbird's a big company. It will happen with
Yep.
them. Um,
You're
and
both
so
Rainbird, right?
we're both. I'm
Yep.
Rainbird. I
Yeah.
think Dave is too.
Okay.
So like that tech, like that,
Sign
yeah,
you up.
sign me up instantly. Sign me up. I'm
So
all in.
so you're going to mount yours to your autonomous mower, I assume, and then just let the computers do the whole thing, right?
Yeah, like we are doing our autonomous robotic mower training today. And so
So because you pulled the trigger on a
I
Firefly,
pulled
right?
I pulled the trigger. I bought a Firefly.
See, you're
Have a
not a
soft.
dinosaur after all, Zach. You're
No,
you're
I'm
you're
not.
fully technology.
So I've been saying I haven't been the biggest proponent of like the smaller autonomous
Right.
mowers, the
I
small one.
agree.
Um, Basically, especially like the greens, I don't really care about doing greens autonomously. That to me doesn't, I really don't care.
Right.
A
It's 3
small,
acres.
it's 3 acres, and it's not that big of a deal to go out there and walk mow them, especially if you got other bigger machines mowing 30 acres. That's what I want.
Yep.
That's why I've been shouting from the rooftops for like 8 to 10 years about, all
Got to
these.
scale it up. You
Yeah, you
got
got
to
to scale
scale
it
it up.
up. You got to scale it up. You got to make it bigger. You got to make it bigger. And so, I think there is a place for the smaller mowers, absolutely. But what I want is when I go out and mow fairways, I want like consistency. I don't want a smaller one to go out and mow 2 acres in, like half of it gets mowed at
Right.
one in one 10-hour section, and the other half gets mowed in another 10-hour section. Like, and I know there's people have said, oh, the consistency's still there because it's getting mowed every day. It's getting mowed
Sure.
like all the time. But I want to be able to go out and just mow everything and be done.
Yeah.
And just mow it all at once and not have, basically, maybe not still have machines out there during play. I mean, people pay a lot of money to come out and play our golf course. And so we necessarily need little robots running around like in play?
Right.
I don't know. I'm not, and I've never been the biggest proponent, but the big one scaled up. So I bought a Firefly fairway mower. So I didn't buy 2, I got 1 to get all the kinks out.
Yeah.
Maybe another year, get another one.
Dan,
So,
any robotics on your course?
No, but we
Okay.
do have some demos coming up.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. I mean, Zach, you were nice enough to open up your golf course for a demo last year, and boy, it was instantaneous, the recognition for me that this is where we need to be. We need to have some scale. And the cool thing about this company is they've actually scaled backwards from large acreage mowing down to fairways. So I'm excited to see hear your review after this year to see, what you're going to learn about it. And I think it's really cool. So we talked a little bit about microwave technology. Any other tech that's on the verge that you guys are excited about?
well, I think it's funny because, we're having this discussion about Dan being a little bit more tech savvy and everything. But on the flip side of that, I just signed up for a robotic mower. I literally just got a brand new GPS sprayer and
Right.
the Greenkeeper app.
Yeah.
So like
You're there,
like,
man.
yeah, so like I'm
Your neighbors pushed
I'm
you.
yeah, I'm evolving into, but I'll still never lose my feel.
Yeah.
Like and
Right.
like I'll still never lose that feel and everything. And I think, that's just the old school still in me.
Is
But
it important to pass that along,
Absolutely.
or is it better? Do you think it's uh, better received by the next generation of turf managers to correlate it to data like Dan's doing? I'm curious. I'm
It's
not.
almost the opposite. It's almost like now they're going to
Now
come from the technology and you
now
got
you're
to
going to have
teach
to
them the
teach the
art
feel.
instead of
Yeah.
learning and loving the art and learning the tech and adding
Boy,
the technology.
that's a great point, Dan. That's a really, really good
It's
observation. I
yeah.
think you're right.
yeah,
Um,
I'd agree with that.
yeah.
Yeah, like just explaining to like, the processes, like going through what I talked about with the moisture meter, like put the probe in the ground, see
Yep.
what it actually looks like,
Yep. Exactly. All right, I'm going to shift gears. I said I'd have you guys out of here in 45 minutes, so I've already lied, but I'm going to shift gears and ask you one question that I think is always on the minds of people in this industry, and that's work-life balance. Being kind of the next generation of superintendent, what's your trick? Because I know you guys both do a good job with this, better than I ever did. So how are you still doing what you do at the level that you do it, both of you, and yet Dan, your girls know you, and Zach, your son and your wife know you, and how do you balance that? What's the trick? Dan, you're first.
I think it's just committing to it.
Yeah.
Like it's gonna be okay. it's gonna
Right.
it's gonna be fine. Like just it's fine. It's okay to leave. Like
Because the
because
history
what
of
are you
your
actually gonna
property,
get done?
the
Yeah, like
history
what
of
are you
your
actually gonna
property
get
is
done though in the next 2 hours? And
right.
is that actually worth your time? And can you delegate it? Or, having the good people around you,
Right.
doing a good job hiring to make sure you can trust everybody that's around you and you can call someone like, hey, they just called me, like this happened, like, can you go take care of it? And then trusting your people to be able to do that when you can't be there or plan not to be there and make it okay with yourself that
Yeah.
you
That
don't
ha
have to be there.
that hasn't always been the philosophy at that club, has it?
No, no.
So
And I
it's
mean, I watched it firsthand, and
right.
I'm like, I'm not doing that.
Good. Good. How about you, Zach?
Yeah, I think it's a couple of things. To echo what Dan said, absolutely right. Having a good team under you, obviously, where you don't have to be there. Everybody's trained up. Everybody, kind of knows the philosophies and the end goal, right? Everybody knows the end goals of the course. But also, like, a couple of things for me, efficiency. If we can't get it, obviously I'm still working some overtime. It's not like I do 40 or 8 and skate every day. We're doing 10-hour days in the summertime. But it's efficiency for me. Like, let's get our job done so we can go home and enjoy our time away from work, whether that
Yep.
be with our families or with friends or whatever. So efficiency. And then so efficiency is big for me. Like, let's get to work, let's get the job done, let's do what we need to do, and let's get out of here and enjoy life. On the other side of that too, I think it's sitting down with yourself as a superintendent and with the culture that you bring as a superintendent. I said it in a Twitter post yesterday, and I tell it to my interns and my the younger guys on my team. The list that you have never stops.
Right.
You could be working at a golf course for 30 years,
Yep.
40 years. You could retire. Rick Tegmeyer probably still had a list
Mm-hmm.
at Des Moines Country Club when he retired.
Yep.
He
100%.
probably still had a list. And you know what? The list never goes away.
Yeah.
So, like, you always have something to do. It's you never hit. I guarantee you, Brad Owen at Augusta National still had a list of stuff he had to get done.
Yep.
But he moved on. So, like, the list never stops. So, like why, I think if people realize that, superintendents realize that, like, as long as you're producing the conditions and the experience for your golfers that they require.
Yep.
There's always going to be drainage. There's always going to be, oh, we could sod this out. We could do this. There's always going to be that stuff.
It's
So,
the blessing
like,
and the curse, right?
yeah, like it,
Yeah.
you have a 3-year career at any golf course you want to do because it's nonstop. Like,
Yep.
you always, and I think we're sometimes our own worst enemy, where, gosh, we just want things to be just that little bit better. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's obviously excellent to have that type of mentality where you always want to be better, right? I always
Yep.
tell everybody here, 1% better every day. By the end of the year, by the end of the month, you're 30% better by just that little bit, right? By the end of the year, you're 160% better than what you were last year.
That's right.
But, going into next year, well, you know what? I want to do this and I want to do this and I want to do this. So, I think it's just coming to terms as a superintendent. Like, there's always going to be work. There's always going to be stuff that you can improve on.
Set the priorities and keep them, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's
Okay.
how I kind of go with it.
That's exactly what I was looking for on that. That's great answers from both of you. All right, last question, and I'll get you guys back on your training for your autonomous mower, and I guess measuring things, Dan, is what you were probably doing. All right, I'll start with Dan. If you weren't a golf course superintendent, what would you be doing?
So I actually had started a business.
I know the answer to this, but I want you to share it.
I had actually started a business doing, like, basically continuing to play intramurals after college. And so we started an adult 3-on-3 basketball league and an indoor wiffle ball league. And I would be self-employed, some sort of entrepreneurial thing, but
Yeah.
probably around sports of some sort.
Yeah. Yeah. How about you, Zach?
I would be a forest ranger or national forest ranger or a park ranger. I'd be outside. I like being outside amongst the woods, that's just me. I want to be outside.
Well,
So,
can you imagine being in this business if you didn't, right? I mean, that would be, it would be it'd be a hard line of work to do if you didn't love it outside, for sure.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
all right. Well, this was awesome, guys. I appreciate your time, and I kind of threw this together, but but you guys you answered exactly the way I figured you would, and I think it's a good point counterpoint. Dan, I think we're pulling Zach along really nicely into technology, and Zach, keep that feel. I think that's a good thing, and keep teaching it to the people that pass through your operations. I think it's good stuff. Thanks so much for being on.
Yes, thank you.
You bet.
Yeah, thank you.
All right,
Thank you.
guys, get back outside. And for all of you that are listening, thanks for listening. And don't forget to subscribe so you hear our next edition. But thanks for joining us this week.